Hey everyone, welcome back to the Explainer. So, have you ever just looked around and thought, man, why do bad things happen to good people? Or, why does that completely dishonest person seem to just have everything going for them? It's a universal frustration, right? We've all been there. Well, today we're unpacking a really fascinating ancient philosophical dialogue from our source text that tackles this exact question head on. We're looking at a profound conversation between two very different figures. We've got a Brahmana, who's your traditional seeker of knowledge, and a fowler, essentially a common hunter or butcher. And what this fowler reveals about the nature of action, consequence, and cosmic justice, honestly, it's going to completely shift how you view the events in your own life. Let's get into it. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, the paradox of unfairness. Then, the mechanics of karma. Third, the soul's changing tenement. Fourth, the wheel of births. And finally, number 5, attaining ultimate salvation. Starting right off with section 1, the paradox of unfairness, life's inequities. So the text starts by validating this feeling we all share. The universe just feels wildly unfair a lot of the time, and human morality is rarely as simple as some basic set of rules. The fowler actually hooks the Brahmana's attention right away with this radical idea about truth. He argues that morality isn't always black and white. In fact, he says that when life is on the line, telling an untruth might actually lead to the triumph of truth. For him, the ultimate measure of truth is simply whatever produces the greatest good for all creatures. It's a super pragmatic, highly nuanced view of virtue, and it perfectly sets the stage for a much deeper look into human actions. Now, the fowler lays out a paradox we literally see every single day. On one side, you have able, intelligent, and incredibly diligent people. They try their absolute hardest, but they are completely baffled in their efforts. They just can't seem to catch a break. And then, contrasted right against them, you've got people who actively practice deception, who injure others, yet somehow they lead happy, prosperous lives. The text points out that if success depended solely on hard work, well, everyone would get exactly what they strive for. But, as we know, they don't. He gives these incredibly vivid, relatable examples to really drive this home. You have miserly people going through intense religious austerities, desperately hoping for a good heir, only to end up with completely infamous, terrible sons. Meanwhile, other people are just born into luxury, inheriting heaps of wealth without lifting a single finger. And I absolutely love the metaphor he uses for illness here. He describes diseases acting just like hunters ambushing small deer in the wild. Even the strong and powerful suffer miserably, barely scraping by for a livelihood. It all just seems helpless, random, and deeply unfair. But the text doesn't just leave us wallowing in that unfairness. It shifts gears, moving from the earthly problem to revealing the grand cosmic explanation behind it. Which brings us to section 2, the mechanics of karma, maturity of past actions. Here is the crucial takeaway. Life is not random. The fowler explains that no person is the absolute dispenser of their own lot in this immediate moment. Instead, what we are experiencing right now is the maturity of past actions. Basically, actions done in a previous existence are ripening or fructifying in our present life. The text describes humanity as being constantly tossed around and overpowered by the strong current of their own karma. If we had absolute freedom of action, nobody would ever die or decay, right? But because of this current of past actions, our present reality is shaped for us before we even begin to act. Now, this naturally leads the Brahmana to ask a great question. Well, if actions carry over like that, how does the soul survive to actually experience them? Moving on to section 3, the soul's changing tenement. Death is just moving. The fowler states it plainly, the spirit dies not. The whole idea that creatures just end is, to him, completely foolish. Death is defined here merely as a change of tenement. Think of it literally like moving out of one apartment and into another. Sure, the physical, corporeal frame is destroyed, but the eternal spirit just packs its bags, inextricably wedded to its past actions, and travels elsewhere to take up a brand new habitation. But there is a very strict rule in this cosmic relocation process. In the world of men, no man reaps the consequences of another man's karma. You only carry your own luggage. Whatever you do, you alone are going to reap those specific consequences, and once an action is done, those consequences can never be completely avoided or just passed off to someone else. It's a system of absolute, unavoidable personal accountability. So how does this all fit into the grander architecture of the universe? Naturally, the Brahmana wants to know exactly how a soul ends up in a good or a bad situation in its next life. That leads us to section 4, the wheel of births, soul's destinations. The fowler lays out a very clear, strict categorization of exactly where a soul goes based on its accumulated load of karma. Purely virtuous actions, those elevate a soul to the state of the gods. A combination of good and evil, which, let's be honest, sounds like most of us, results in acquiring the human state. Now, if a soul indulges deeply in sensuality and demoralizing practices, it's born into the lower species of animals, and truly sinful acts drag the spirit straight down into the infernal regions. Your destination is directly programmed by the nature of your actions. And this isn't just a one-time trip. The text describes this continuous, exhausting loop. A being accumulates karma. Their physical body dies, so they change tenements. They are reborn into a new state based on that karma, and there they experience the resulting misery or joy. But here is the real trap. While they're experiencing that misery, they react to it, often accumulating a whole new series of actions. The fowler uses a brilliant comparison. He says it's like sickly men eating unwholesome food. They feel terrible, but in their illusion, they actually think they are happy and at ease, so they just keep eating it. Their fetters are never loosened. New karma arises, and they turn endlessly in this world like a giant wheel, passing through thousands of births. So, is there any hope? Are we just doomed to spin on this wheel forever, eating unwholesome food? Thankfully, no. The fowler provides the Brahmana with the exact blueprint for breaking the cycle. Let's look at Section 5, Attaining Ultimate Salvation, Breaking the Cycle. To stop the wheel, you have to actively loosen those chains. The practical steps outlined in the text are straightforward, but man, they require immense discipline. First, one must cast off their fetters by purifying their actions, practicing religious meditations, and striving to do good with a heart that is absolutely free from malice. You also have to follow your proper avocation, which means doing the duty that's actually suited to you, and imitating the standards set by righteous people. Doing all of this calms the mind, brings real happiness in this world, and eventually elevates you to the blissful Elysian regions where misery is completely unknown. But the text makes a really profound distinction right at the very end. Achieving heavenly pleasure isn't actually the final finish line. A truly wise person, someone possessing enlightened vision, is not satisfied merely with reaping the rewards of virtue, things like wealth, beauty, or even heavenly pleasures. They realize that everything worldly is evanescent, it all fades. So using the light of spiritual wisdom, they choose to become completely indifferent to both pain and pleasure. They still act virtuously, but they completely renounce worldly pursuits. Resignation and forbearance become their roots. By subduing their senses, they bypass the wheel entirely and attain the supreme asylum, true salvation. And just as the fowler delivers this ultimate secret to salvation, subduing the senses, the text leaves us with this massive, lingering cliffhanger of a question from the Brahmana. You talk of senses. What are they? How may they be subdued? And what is the good of subduing them? It's such a brilliant way to end. We now understand the mechanics of karma, the endless wheel of births, and the goal of ultimate salvation. But the precise tactical method, the true nature of our senses, and how to actually conquer them remains the next great mystery to solve. I really hope this explainer has completely shifted how you view the forces acting upon your life, and left you just as curious as the Brahmana to discover what lies beyond our sensory world. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time.